Good morning, my creative friends, and welcome to Painting in Your PJs with Minette. I'm Dr. Minette Riordan. I have been gone for a couple of weeks due to some travel and events and a forced week off of not feeling well with a nasty head cold. So happy to be back with you guys after a break and continuing to play and explore my creative voice as a mixed media folk artist. I am working with fluid acrylics, which I'm really loving, and I'm trying some of the Liquitex fluid acrylics, which I love. They're, of course, not quite as nice as the Goldens, but way more affordable for experimenting and trying something new to me, right? And so it's been an opportunity in this style to use a consistent type of paint. Hey, Tori, so good to see you, my friend, as well. Been way too long since I was here with you guys. Super happy to be back. And I wanted to talk a little bit today about what does it mean to find your creative voice and what are some ways that we can do that as I kind of paint and talk my way through what it is that I am personally creating. This is going to be a fairly short show today as I have a house guest and some other things going on, but I didn't want to miss being here with all of you. And a couple of weeks ago, when I was here, I started this horse painting, which now I have finished, and I'm super happy with this sweet, whimsical horse. Love the colors. It also feels maybe just a little bit busy, like I'm not quite there yet with the style, but this was felt like a really great first effort in the exploration of style. So one of the things, let me get back to my notes here, that, I thought about was how important it is to be willing to practice, to do a lot of variations and iterations of our art, not to always keep trying new and different things, but if there's something that we discover that we like, to really dive into that and do a whole bunch of it, right? Like a lot of times we sign up for these year-long programs and courses, and every week there's a different artist, a different style, a different class. So the ones that you love, do more of them. So that would be one tip for finding your creative voice. Review your own work. Go back through your own work and notice what colors are you drawn to? What patterns and textures are you drawn to? What styles are you drawn to? We went for a walk in our local sculpture garden a couple of days ago, and my friend that's here visiting was talking about how she doesn't love to do representational art, right? Like she loves abstract, she's an amazing zentangle artist, but she doesn't want to do representational things, right? So great. Like if you know that, that's awesome. If you love to paint faces, paint more faces. If you love, like me, to work on animals, do lots and lots of animals. If you were ever to come to my studio, you'll see my walls are covered in mandalas and animal art. And then to explore different styles. So the other one that I did was this owl, which I am so in love with, this sweet little owl. It's my favorite one. I really kind of love this more painterly style that still feels a little bit of the folk art. I really loved the palette of this one. It's a lot calmer than this painting, right? So there's something in between these that speaks to me and is drawing in. And pardon my froggy voice, I'm still not 100% over this ridiculous cold. But as I'm on this exploration, I'm exploring colors, I'm exploring styles. I don't need them to look all exactly alike, but I do want to stick with the theme of animals. I'm going to stick with a color palette, and then I can play inside those creative constraints to see what emerges from this experiment. So, practicing creative constraints is another thing. Mixed media artists, especially, we can get easily overwhelmed by all of the opportunities, the variety, the sheer volume of materials, paints, colors, and styles that we can explore. So every time you sit down to do a project, curate your supplies. Don't go for all the things. If you're going to do a collage project, focus on collage. If you're going to do a painting process, focus on painting. So, creative constraints is a principle that says that we're more creative when we have constraints. Using a limited color palette is an example of a constraint that benefits us, right? It can actually encourage us to be more creative, to mix our own colors. So, to review, we talked about practicing the things that you love and letting go of the rest. We talked about reviewing our past art that we've made and looking for hints of colors, textures, patterns. We talked about the principle of creative constraints, having a regular sketchbook practice where you're practicing the things that matter to you can also be really important. I love this sweet little bear. Yeah, I was thinking this morning, Lisa, good morning. I'm glad to be back with you. And I was thinking this morning how much how awesome it would be to just paint a whole series of owls, right? Like talk about curating a voice and a style, right? Like I think of Terry Runyon, who I love her cats. And she does almost exclusively cats and other animals, right? So, repetition is a great way to focus on your own creative voice. Have the confidence to share your art and ask for feedback would be the final tip. Having, or two tips. First, having the confidence to share. I would say another thing is working small is another great way to really curate your own practice. And I'm realizing as I'm looking at this, the background is too dark and too blue. And what I was going for was something a little more purple. So let's see if we can mix up a little purple here. This is a really dark, where this one's all stopped up for some reason, a really dark dioxazine purple. There we go. I don't need a lot of it. I'm going to brighten that up with just a little bit of magenta. So again, I'm using a curated palette of colors. Maybe a tiny little bit of teal. And let's start there and then add some white. So, and I'm making a mess already. So some artists have such a recognizable voice and style. Like you see, Terry Runyon's a great example. Like you see their work and you instantly go, oh, that's a Terry Runyon piece. And if you want that, if you want to have that, ooh, that's pretty. If you want to have that recognizable voice, then you have to commit to it. You have to stop taking a bazillion classes in a different million different styles, and you have to stick to something for a while, which is really hard for us creatives, especially if you've taken my quiz and you are a Clarissa. You know how hard it is to stick to one style. Now, here's the thing, it may not matter to you to have your own voice. If you're at a stage in your life, okay, that purple's making me way happier. If you are at a stage in your life where you make art for fun, you're not looking to sell your art and you're just in it for the play and experimentation, don't judge yourself for that. Embrace it. Lean into it. So there's places in my creative practice where I give myself permission to try lots of different things. And then there's the things that I want to be publicly known for. One of those is intuitive collage, and the other, which is more related to the work I do in the world, helping midlife women to find themselves and their creative voice. And the second thing is to be known for my love of animals, for painting animals, tangling animals, drawing animals. I'm going to lose some of my flowers here, but I'm going to be okay with that. I can repaint the flowers. I wasn't digging the background. So that's another thing, right? Like looks like I was kind of far along in this painting, and I'm going to just let it go, right? I'm going to come in and it's okay. Probably leave a little bit of that dark showing around some of the flowers through that background. I remember when I first started exploring, one of the first things I discovered was willowing with Tamara Laporte, who I love. She's such an amazing artist and an amazing human being. I interviewed her for a business summit years and years ago and really enjoyed talking with her and hearing about her journey. And her programs helped me get started and discover what I liked and what I didn't care about at all. So programs like that are great when you're exploring and learning, but at some point you got to stop buying all the classes and focus on those teachers that you really love, how they teach, how they work. Maybe you particularly love their style of art and you want to develop your own version of that. So one of my favorite people on Instagram is Jana Clinard Harris, who is a collage artist and mixed media artist. And I love because even when she takes other people's classes, she makes everything into her own style by adding her signature collage elements. And it's such a great example of how you can work on. Oh, thank you, Lisa. I appreciate that. It's because you love doing the personal work, right? So for me, part of my creative voice is very much about my art needs to have meaning, right? Every piece that I create has an intention and a purpose that is part of that inner expression of how I'm showing up in the world, especially with the intuitive art and work. Not everybody wants that. Some people just want to make pretty art, and sometimes I just want to make pretty art. That doesn't happen as often, but those are the things that, I love. Okay, that purple is making me way, way happier there. And I may change up this brown a little bit later, or I may not. And I ended up sort of working on this and the owl and the horse kind of all at the same time, which I also really love when you're looking to find your voice, is this idea of working in a series, which is why for, the next couple of weeks here, I'm going to shift gears at the beginning of October, but for now, I want to continue. In my personal painting practice, I will continue to work on these folk art animals, but on YouTube, we'll change gears in October. But I'm committed to working on this project. Okay, and bring some of those lines back so that purple background is still a little damp. So I got to be mindful of that before I continue. A great example is my friend was here this weekend. We spent all day Sunday working on 2025 business plans. Saturday, we made handmade journals for our business planning. And good morning, Yvonne. And we had so much fun playing with some gel prints. I missed you, Tori. We had fun gel printing. And we made some gel prints. We used those to create the covers of our handmade books. We worked on business plans all day Sunday. And then we got to yesterday evening and we're like, okay, we need something different, a different project. What feels fun here? And we ended up watching a video from my friend Emma Freeman, who makes beautiful fabric books. And we went outside and picked all kinds of leaves and flowers and used ink and printed on fabric to make stitched fabric books. Right? It was a fun evening, beautiful project that I absolutely enjoyed. And when we allow ourselves time to work in our style as well as time to explore outside of our style, I think that's where the magic can really happen. We get influenced by other things, but we aren't copying those other things. There's a difference between working under the influence, as my friend Andrea says, or imitating. Okay, that purple background is making me happy. It was so fun, Tori. I really loved it. You're going to get to meet Emma. She's going to be a guest teacher at the retreat in a couple of weeks. I also wanted that background to be purple because even though I love blue, I noticed everything was getting very, very blue, which definitely shows up as a color in a lot of my palettes. But in thinking about how can I create some variety here, I wanted to do something different for the bear and leaning more into some of those purples and yellows. All right. So this guy feels like he wants to have some pattern on him, but perhaps not to be completely covered in pattern like some of the others. Get all my Posca markers going here. All right. I'm thinking more yellow on the bear. I really love maybe yellow is the primary color of the patterns because yellow and purple are beautiful contrasting colors. And you may not even be able to see that yellow on the screen. I know it's a little bit glary. And like I said, I noticed that it felt like that horse was getting, I like the bright colors. The horse was getting busy. So when I came to do the bear, I'm like, how can I keep the playfulness and fun of these patterns without having it get quite so busy? So that was one of the things that I was thinking about as I started to think about where I was going with this bear. So keeping the flowers in the foreground, having a simpler background at the top so there's some breathing space in the design here. And adding these patterns is the part that I love, and I could and I do get lost in this part. And I'm going to work my way around the bear in different parts. And remember, when we think about that sort of folk art style, it's flat, it's simplistic, it's not about dimension and shading. It has that sort of primitive feel to it. Make sure I'm getting lots of that yellow in there. And I get to decide, how simple or how complex do I want my little bear to be. My little bear, a little pink cheek there. Keeping the face really simple so that it pops out, right? When the horse was much more complicated in design. Bring in some blues here. And I always start with these underlayers, and we'll go back and just continue to add a variety of patterns and designs. I'm also noticing how this is a Titan buff, how the colors layer. It kind of mutes the colors, gives them a little more of a antique-y feel. They don't, they're not as pure as they would be if I were painting over white. So, I'm present to these things. It's not good or bad, right? I'm not trying to make any specific decisions about them. I'm just present to, oh, isn't that interesting? And then always remembering, I talk about this a lot, if I use a color in one place, to make sure that then I'm repeating that color in other places, which helps my eye to move around the painting. So that was if I wanted my eye to go right there, that would be the only blue I would put, but I don't. I want my eye to kind of flow around the painting, so I want to make sure I've got that same blue in a few different places in my design. All right. I think this one is going to continue to grow and maybe be a little bit bigger. So maybe we're going to come in and repeat some of these on the legs. But again, just really keeping this one all very floral and very simple. Somehow it's feeling like simplicity is the thing that is going to matter here. Other things to pay attention to when you're cultivating your own style. We talked about color and pattern, texture, but also, I love it. It looks like the bear now is smelling the flower. But also to think about subject matter, landscapes, abstracts, animals. Think about symbolism. Are there elements that you want to appear in all of your paintings that are meaningful to you? Are spirals, squares, triangles? What are the things that help to tell the story that you want to tell in your art? So those things matter as well. Building up the layers all around the painting, sort of painting around the different places where, I'd started putting layers. And because I'm putting these brights over the darks, it's going to take a couple of layers to make those colors really pop. And sometimes I get to a point and I think, am I going the right direction? Does it need to sit and rest? I put that pop of pink there, so now I'm looking at it going, well, okay, where else am I going to put some pops of pink? Do I want to bring some of that pink maybe into some of the flowers down here? I wasn't thinking of this one being pink, was thinking a little more muted, but now I'm feeling like, oh, maybe that's exactly what it needs. Not trying to make the flowers realistic, having fun just making them flower-like and whimsical is part of what I'm looking for. So you look at it and you know it's a flower. So again, 1, 2, 3, it's in 3 places, right? It sort of triangulates the eye, being mindful of that. Definitely going to probably come in with some black again or darker blues and do some more outlining on these different elements. It's another distinctive feature of folk art a lot of times is the use of a lot of heavy black lines. Okay, I don't like that at all, so let's just add more green in there. And the cool thing that I think I love the best about working with acrylic paints is everything is paint overable. One of my favorite sayings. I'm not committed to any of this. If I get it down on here and I don't love it, guess what? I can come back in and completely start the whole process over. Probably wanting to brighten some of these other colors up down here in the flowers, so just noticing what else needs to happen. Going to repeat the colors of this flower here. Not loving that one, it looks too Christmassy, so I might just paint that one out. I'm also noticing that these little paintings that are done in layers, they take a lot of patience. I really have to wait for each layer to dry, and I'm not always that patient, so it's another good reason to have several of them on the go. Is that I can let a layer dry and then like this I lost my yellow because I let it mix with the orange, but I think it's important to have that work on more than one thing at once. It creates the space to, well, I have time to work right now, this is what I want to be working on, and then I mess it up because I'm being impatient. All right, I'm getting somewhere, not 100% certain where I'm getting to, but it feels like a fun start. Yep, see, that's not dry enough. Okay, I am going to pause there, but I wanted to just stop by and talk a little bit about the different ways that we can find our voice, which we're practice on one style, one theme, one color palette, creative constraints, share and ask for feedback, have a sketchbook practice, even if you're taking a class with someone else, how can you really focus in on that class and make it truly your own? Like, share with confidence, right? And be okay, be open to receiving feedback, right? Feedback is so important. And then pay attention to what it is that you love, and flip back through your artwork that you've done over the last months or years, and just notice, oh, I'm drawn to this or I'm drawn to that. And notice what it is that you're drawn to and try more of that. Also, I would leave you with the final words: get really practiced with discarding things quickly. So try something and, oh, that's not it, and let it go, right? I think that's really important. I can't wait to see you too, Tori. All right, my friends, have a beautiful rest of your day, and I will be back on Thursday morning with some more tips on curating your own personal style and voice in your art. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.